Have you ever found yourself wondering if masturbation still matters after 70? Maybe you've asked quietly in your mind but never said it aloud. You're not alone. Many of my patients, good, honest men and women in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, ask me the same thing, usually after the door closes and the small talk fades. They lean in, almost whispering, "Dr. Easton, is it still okay to do it?" I'm Dr. Nolan Easton, and today we're talking about a subject that's often misunderstood, especially in our later years: masturbation after 70. Benefits, boundaries, and when to ask your doctor. Now, I want to start with a story. A patient of mine, let's call him Harold, 74 years old, came to see me not long ago. He was healthy overall. Retired engineer, walks every morning, eats well, but he carried a certain heaviness in his tone. After we went through his usual checkup, he hesitated and said, "Doc, I've been alone for a few years since my wife passed. I still have urges sometimes, but I feel guilty. I'm not sure if it's normal anymore." I could see the mix of confusion and embarrassment in his eyes, the same look I've seen countless times in older men and women. Society often teaches us that sexuality fades with age, that it's somehow inappropriate past a certain point. But here's the truth. Your body, your mind, and your emotions don't just switch off at 70. They evolve, they adapt, but they don't disappear. So let's clear the air right now. Masturbation at 70, 80, even 90 is not shameful. It's not unhealthy. In fact, in many cases, it can be good for you. Harold's concern is one I wish more people spoke about openly. For men and women alike, self-pleasure in later years can help maintain sexual confidence, improve sleep, reduce stress, and even support better blood flow to areas that otherwise might see less activity with age. You'd be surprised how many of my patients tell me, after a few months of feeling more relaxed about it, that their overall mood, energy, and outlook improve noticeably. But, and this is important, it's not just about the physical act. It's about connection. Connection to yourself. At 70, it's not about fantasy or performance, it's about comfort, understanding your body, and appreciating that intimacy can take many forms. Now, one thing I always emphasize to my patients is balance. Just because something is natural and healthy doesn't mean more is automatically better. Overdoing it can lead to fatigue, sleep disruption, or even emotional detachment if it's used as an escape from loneliness instead of a way to connect with oneself. I tell my patients to think of it like dessert. A little sweetness can enhance life. Too much, and it can make you feel off balance. If what I'm saying resonates with you, I'd love for you to let me know by tapping the like button. It helps this community grow. And if you've ever had questions about this topic but felt too shy to ask, leave a simple yes in the comments below. I do read them personally, and your voice truly helps shape what we talk about next time. Now, let's go back to Harold. Over time, he began to understand that what he was feeling wasn't wrong. In fact, it was a sign that his body was still vibrant and responsive. I helped him learn how to approach it without guilt, focusing on self-care, not secrecy. We talked about hydration, gentle exercise, and blood flow, because all of these factors affect not only erectile function, but sensation itself. After a few months, he told me something I'll never forget. "Doc, I don't feel broken anymore. I feel human again." That's why I always tell my patients and my viewers this: you don't stop deserving pleasure just because you've celebrated a few more birthdays. You don't stop being a man or a woman because your hair's gone gray or your skin has softened. The desire for touch, warmth, and connection, that's part of being alive. Of course, there are times when it's worth talking to your doctor. If you notice changes in sensation, new pain, swelling, or if self-pleasure leaves you more tired than relaxed, those could be signs your body's trying to tell you something deeper. It doesn't always mean something is wrong, but it does mean it's worth checking. Sometimes it's as simple as adjusting medication or improving blood flow. So, if you've been silently wondering whether it's okay, whether it's still part of who you are, I want you to remember this. You are not too old to care for yourself, body and soul. And as we go deeper into this topic, I'll share more about what healthy boundaries look like, how to know when to seek advice, and how to embrace this part of life without guilt or fear. When Harold came back to see me 3 months later, there was something different about him. He had the same gentle smile, the same neatly tucked shirt and soft gray hair, but there was a new light in his eyes. He told me, "Doc, I've been sleeping better. I feel less anxious, and I don't feel ashamed anymore." That, to me, was the real sign of progress. Now, let's talk about why this happens, because it's not just in Harold's head. When we age, our hormones change. Testosterone in men and estrogen in women slowly decline. That shift can affect libido, mood, and even how your brain reacts to touch and pleasure. But here's the beautiful truth. Stimulation, even gentle self-pleasure, tells your brain and body that intimacy still matters. I often tell my patients, your body listens to what you do, not just what you think. When you keep that connection alive, your brain continues to release beneficial chemicals, dopamine for joy, oxytocin for calm, and endorphins for comfort. It's nature's way of reminding you that pleasure is also medicine. But there's another side to this conversation that's just as important, the boundaries. Because at 70 and beyond, balance becomes everything. Masturbation can be beneficial, but like exercise or diet, it has to fit the rhythm of your life. One patient, a 68-year-old man named Victor, came to me complaining of fatigue and lower back pain. When we talked more openly, he admitted that he had started masturbating several times a day, not out of pleasure, but because he was lonely and anxious. He said, "Doc, it's like I can't stop. It's become a habit more than anything else." That's when I told him something I'll tell you too. Healthy pleasure should add peace, not take it away. If it starts feeling like an obligation, a secret, or a source of guilt, it's time to pause and reflect. For Victor, we worked on building structure. We added morning walks, social connection, and mindful relaxation. Over a few months, the balance returned, and so did his energy. Many older adults fall into one of two extremes. Some avoid self-touch entirely, believing it's no longer appropriate. Others turn to it frequently as a form of comfort. The truth lives somewhere in between. Think of masturbation after 70 not as a moral question, but a health question. A natural, safe, personal expression that's meant to bring calm, not chaos. And let's be real here. Your body is different now than it was at 30 or 40. Skin may be more sensitive, erections may take longer, and lubrication might change. That's not failure. That's aging, and it's completely normal. In fact, being gentle, taking your time, and focusing on warmth rather than intensity often makes the experience more satisfying and more sustainable. I always smile when my patients tell me, "Doc, it's not the same anymore." I usually reply, "You're not the same either, and that's a good thing." Pleasure at this stage is about patience, not performance. It's about mindfulness, not measurement. If you're watching this and thinking, "This makes sense," take a moment right now to click like. It tells me these conversations matter. And if you've ever found yourself wondering where that balance lies, leave a simple yes in the comments below. I do read them personally, and your voice truly helps shape what we talk about next time. Now, one of the physical benefits that surprises many of my viewers is how gentle stimulation supports blood flow. That's crucial at this age. Good circulation means better function, not just sexually, but for your overall vitality. Men who engage in healthy, balanced sexual activity often notice improvements in sleep, bladder control, and even mood stability. For women too, gentle stimulation can help maintain tissue elasticity, reduce dryness, and prevent discomfort, things that many are too shy to bring up with their doctor,
but that truly matter for long-term comfort and confidence. And while we're being open, yes, there's an emotional side to this too. Masturbation isn't just about physical release. It's a form of reassurance. It tells your body, I'm still here.
A few weeks after Victor regained his balance, he came into my office again, this time smiling, relaxed, and carrying a small bag of oranges from his backyard tree. "Doc," he said, "I finally understand what you meant when you said it's about peace, not pressure." That sentence stayed with me, because peace, that's what this stage of life should feel like. Not guilt, not secrecy, not confusion. Just peace in knowing your body is still capable of pleasure, still worth caring for, and still a part of who you are. But here's something few people talk about. What happens when something feels off? Because while masturbation can be healthy, there are times when it can also signal underlying issues that need attention. And this is where boundaries and awareness really matter. Let's take another example. Ellen, a 72-year-old woman who came to me complaining about a burning sensation afterward. She was embarrassed, thought it was just dryness, but after a gentle conversation, I encouraged her to let me examine things further. It turned out to be a mild infection that had gone unnoticed for months. Easily treatable, but it reminded me how often seniors silently tolerate discomfort instead of seeking care. So I tell everyone, if masturbation suddenly becomes painful, irritating, or if you notice changes like swelling, redness, numbness, or discharge, that's not something to ignore. These symptoms aren't a reflection of doing anything wrong. They're simply your body asking for attention, just like a sore knee or a stiff shoulder would. Now, for men, one of the most common concerns is a change in sensation or difficulty maintaining an erection. This doesn't always mean erectile dysfunction. Sometimes it's circulation, nerve sensitivity, or even anxiety. But it's worth mentioning to your doctor, especially if it's new or happens often. And here's where I see something powerful happen. Once men and women start to see their sexuality as part of their health, not something separate or shameful, the fear fades. When you can talk about it, you can manage it. I remember telling Harold during one of our talks, the moment you bring a question into the light, it stops having power over you. That's the beauty of being open, whether it's with your partner, your doctor, or even yourself. If you've ever hesitated to bring up a question like this with your doctor, you're not alone. Many of my patients tell me, "Doc, I didn't think it was appropriate to talk about this at my age." But the truth is, these conversations are exactly what your doctor is there for. Whether it's dryness, sensitivity changes, prostate discomfort, or libido fluctuations, all of it ties directly to your well-being. If this is striking a chord with you, take a moment right now to click like and type yes in the comments. I want to know if this conversation feels relevant, because it helps me shape future topics around what you actually want to know. Now, another layer of this topic is emotional health. Sometimes what feels like a change in libido or physical desire is actually a reflection of emotional state, stress, loneliness, or even grief. After 70, many people have lost partners, or physical closeness may have shifted. And in that space, masturbation can feel confusing, comforting one moment, lonely the next. That's why it's so important to pair physical self-care with emotional awareness. When you approach self-pleasure from a place of love and understanding, it supports you. But when it comes from boredom or pain, it can leave you feeling emptier than before. That's not failure. It's simply your heart asking for connection in a different form. Sometimes what we need isn't stimulation. It's companionship, touch, or emotional warmth. I often tell my patients, your body and your heart are on the same team. Listen to both. One of my older patients, a widow named Maria, told me something beautiful. She said, "I thought pleasure was over for me, but now I see it's just changed shape." She had begun to explore self-care as part of her daily routine, not just physical, but emotional. She'd light a candle, listen to soft music, and focus on relaxing her body rather than performing.
And she said that in those quiet moments, she finally felt close to herself again. That's the message I want you to take from this. At this stage of life, pleasure should be kind, not rushed. It should heal, not harm. And it should always come with awareness. If you ever feel that something about your experience, physically or emotionally, isn't bringing peace, that's when it's time to reach out. Your doctor can check for medical causes, yes, but we can also help you find new ways to restore connection, whether that's improving circulation, managing medication side effects, or simply helping you understand that nothing about this part of life is shameful. You see, aging doesn't mean losing sexuality, it means redefining it. It means understanding that intimacy isn't about performance or frequency. It's about how you feel inside your own skin. When Harold came in for his annual visit this year, he looked 10 years younger. His posture was relaxed, his mood calm, and when I asked how he'd been, he smiled and said, "Doc, I think I finally made peace with my body." That's the kind of outcome that reminds me why these conversations matter so deeply. It's not about the act itself. It's about what it represents: self-acceptance, balance, and peace. So let's talk about that peace, how to keep it, nurture it, and protect it. Because as we've learned from Harold, Victor, and Maria, this stage of life is not about denying pleasure or chasing youth. It's about finding a gentle middle ground where intimacy, even with yourself, supports your well-being, not your worries. By the time most of my patients reach 70 or beyond, they've spent decades caring for others, children, partners, parents, and often they forgot how to care for themselves. When we talk about masturbation after 70, what we're really talking about is returning home to your own body, not with guilt, but with gratitude. Your body may not move like it once did, your sensations may have softened, but that doesn't mean you're broken. It means you've lived. Every wrinkle, every change is a chapter of your story. And yes, you still deserve comfort, release, and connection. But, and this is important, knowing when to seek guidance is a sign of wisdom, not weakness. If you ever experience pain, changes in sensation, loss of desire, or emotional distress tied to sexual activity, that's your body's way of saying, let's check in. It might be something simple: dryness, medication side effects, circulation issues, all easily addressed. Sometimes it's more emotional: anxiety, depression, or grief manifesting through the body. I once had a gentleman, 78, who told me, "Doc, I stopped touching myself because it made me sad." After talking for a while, we discovered his sadness wasn't about the act at all. It was about missing his late wife. He realized that what he really needed wasn't to avoid his body, but to reconnect with it gently, in a new way that honored his memories while embracing the present. That's why I encourage people to slow down, to make these moments intentional. Take time to create comfort. Warm lighting, a clean space, gentle touch. These small details shift the experience from something hidden to something healing. It's no longer about performance, it's about presence. When we treat pleasure as part of self-care, not as a secret or indulgence, something beautiful happens. Our relationship with aging changes. We stop seeing the body as a burden and start seeing it as a companion, one that's walked beside us through decades of laughter, work, love, and loss. And that shift, my friends, is what I call aging with dignity. Now, if you've been watching this series and something inside you feels a little lighter, maybe more accepting, or maybe just a bit more curious, I want you to take a second right now to click the like button. It helps us reach others who might be sitting quietly with the same questions you once had. And if this message speaks to you, type yes